Fantasia was Disney's most ambitious feature, and Walt assigned a different art director to each segment of the film.
And then within the Beethoven, there were different styles where you had the opening business with the centaurs and centaurettes. I wanted to get an early Greek Elysian Fields characteristic, sort of an Art Nouveau, which was very popular in France at one period. It was an idealistic setting, an idealistic period where we felt that I felt that the centaurs and centaurettes would have a better chance to operate. But when Bacchus came in, I should be rollicking and wild and round and roly-poly. So I went for a different thing there, but it all was supposed to fit in one style, one overall style, but different treatment in the coloring and in some of the forms. I used fat, round forms, primarily in the Bacchus setups, because Bacchus himself, who was animated by Ward Kimball, was a fat, roly-poly, happy guy.
The imaginations of Ken and his fellow art directors brought Lewis Carroll's topsy-turvy landscape to life in Alice in Wonderland.
We did feel that it was in a world beyond our knowledge. We'd never seen a world like this. So what were we going to do to make people feel that this wasn't the real world? The part I enjoyed working on was the garden, the song where there's the garden of flowers and the caterpillar and all that stuff.
Oh, that was lovely.
Thank you, my dear. What kind of garden do you come from?
Oh, I don't come from any garden.
Do you suppose she's a wildflower? And did you notice her petals? What a peculiar color. And no fragrance. Just look at those stems. Rather scrawny, I'd say.
I think she's pretty.
Quiet, Bud.
I'm not a flower.
Aha! Just as I suspected. A weed.
Disney's next assignment for his jack-of-all-trades, to perfect the combination of live actors and an animated world.
Song of the South was to be a combination. Again, I have to relate everything back to Walt, because Walt, I don't think it would have happened if it hadn't been that Walt Disney wanted to find the proper way to have humans and animals and cartoon characters work together on film and make us feel like they're in one world. We wanted to put Uncle Remus in a cartoon world. Have him walking around, when he was telling these fantasy tales, he should really be transported himself into this cartoon world. So we built a set, a huge set, cartoon set, that we were intending to light as flat as we possibly could so that it looked like a painted cartoon background. We could then print into the live-action backgrounds and into the set scenes, we could print our animation characters, and they would appear to belong. It was the first time that had ever been done. But what it involved was, technically, it involved very, very close work with the head animators. And I made book after book after book of miniatures, miniature scenes, and who did it and what. And they went down to the animators. And here's a section you're going to work on. Would you like to go over it in thumbnail form? Because Ken's going to go over and shoot this stuff. And so we would have different animators would either say, yeah, I like it just the way it is, or they would come up with suggestions for changes, and then we'd hash it out. And they loved it. They loved that way of working.
Doggone, that red rabbit is sure a caution. He sure is. You mark my words. That's a fact. That young scout was going to put his foot in it one of these days.
I didn't want to be stuck in animation. I didn't want to do only animation. I wanted to do story, I wanted to do painting, I wanted to do everything, be involved with everything. I loved being close to Walt, because Walt was where everything started.
Ken was in on Walt's first notions of Disneyland.
Ken, he said, you were an architect. He said, look, he said, I'm going to take you off the payroll. He says, you and I'll pay you out of my own pocket. He said, we'll take a room up here, and just you and I'll have the key. And, you know, and I get up there in that room, and you make these dresses. He said, why don't you make some things like Norman Rockwell covers? He said, I don't mean you have to make it that good, but that idea. Like, he loved Norman Rockwell. Make that kind of Americana, and then I'll build them and make these little creatures that you put in there, make them move, make them work. And so we had keys to this little room on the 3rd floor, and only he and I. And I made about 25 of these paintings and covers. And he completed 3, built them. Because what happened was, the first one I did was a little old stage with a soft shoe dancer on it. And I thought that'd be a nice simple thing, just a little proscenium arch and all the little kerosene lamps. And this guy with a checkered suit was standing there doing a little soft shoe dance. And Walt looked at it and said, hey, I know who can do that. That's Buddy Ebsen. He's a friend of mine. He'll do it. In the meantime, he and I would go downtown to pressed wood factory, because I had this proscenium arch with a certain scale and design in it. And he never asked me. He said, here's what we want for the proscenium arch, Ken. And he pulled out, and it was just god-awful. It was all wrong. It was twice the scale it should be. It would make the stage look like a terrible place. But I couldn't say, oh, no, that's the wrong scale. If he couldn't see what I had drawn and how wrong the size of what he had picked out and the shape of what he had picked out was, but you know, the odd thing was that he picked out this awful, execrable thing, and it looked good. In the long run, I put it there, wow, how did that happen, you know?
Ken moved back into animation to help shape the storybook style of a new picture.
I came on Sleeping Beauty a little late. It was styled by Ivan Earle, who has become a famous artist in his own right. Walt liked his style. If you look at the old Master Van Eyck, you can see details on bushes miles away, as if everything in the whole picture is absolutely clear. And Ivan felt that way about this. It's a fairy tale. Let's make it like that. You'll notice that all the design in it is absolutely vertical or horizontal. Everything in it is based on these 2 juxtapositions, these 2 planes, including the characters. It's all just lovely, pristine, horizontal, vertical, very, very designy.
There was a price for Sleeping Beauty's elegance, a price that was too high.
I understood that Walt was very, very unhappy with the $8.5 million, which Sleeping Beauty cost, and the rumor was we weren't going to make any more feature pictures. They were too expensive. Well, by putting together a number of things that appealed to me, I could apply to Walt that, yes, we could make a picture for $3 million. And he had a project that he wanted to do anyway, which was 101 Dalmatians.
One of the most expensive steps in animation was the tracing of the drawings onto clear sheets of celluloid or cells.
Drawing that you make as an animator or anybody, you start to make a drawing, and that drawing has what life, because it's drawn right out of your mind. You're not thinking about your technique, your hand, or anything else. It's just a whole picture coming to life out of your hand. Now, if somebody, including yourself, is given the chore of tracing that, immediately it becomes dead.
Anderson conceived a Xerox system that reproduced the animator's drawings on celluloid.
Happy dogs that don't sleep, nutritious canine crunchies. Canine crunchies.
Ernie, we'd better get these little nippers off to bed.
A difference in the appearance of the 101 Dalmatians from any of the pictures preceding it was that you will be aware of the fact that there are lines, drawing lines, outlining every character and actually even outlining many of the areas in the backgrounds. These things you were never conscious of, and they didn't exist in the feature pictures prior to that.
Walt Disney didn't care for the look of the movie, and he knew Ken was responsible.
We got that whole doggone thing practically done before he discovered what we were doing, and then I realized what a heinous crime I'd committed in his name, because he said no more of that 101 Dalmatian stuff.